Okay, as promised, and usually delivered a little bit later than those promises, a YouTube only piece, a little Mail It In Friday for us. So I guess we've got a segment. We've got our history corner, and then we'll get to some Friday feedback emails. So whatever this is what it is. What's up, guys?
Yo,
what's up? The USPS of delivery times for us for the Friday feedbacks. It's definitely not DHL, not same day.
I got to tell you, I'm awaiting something in the mail, and it's a good feeling. It's been a really long time since I've been like, hey.
mail is sick. Yeah, mail is underrated.
Yeah, that's
mail?
a good one. I should have done that. That's a good one.
Well, so the funny thing is, like, I don't even like read most of the mail because you just kind of look at it and you're like, I could tell by this envelope. It's doesn't really mean much. But when you get something that actually, or when you're expecting something, you get something unexpected that you're like, what's this? It's a great feeling.
I have a guy that like used to live in my building, I think, or put like my number in. He lives in my building, but he like put my apartment number, and every like 3 weeks something comes for him addressed to me, and I always forget his name, and it's always like a Nike box or something, and I'm like, whoa. And then like 3 days later it comes and gets it, and it's really just throws off all my all the chemicals in my brain, because you're right, a package shows up and you're like, what the hell is in here?
Did I order something that I
like, my name's not Nicky, but sucks to be that guy. I wonder if he's my size. But no, he comes and gets it like the next day.
I told you about the time I'd rented a house in Vermont for a few weeks, and I just ordered some Nike stuff. I was like, I'm going to get some basketball sneakers, because for whatever reason, I didn't pack them. There was nothing that I could buy that I would probably want to play in. And it was some lake cabin, right? So the address and everything was like a little sketchy. And then the fact that my name was on it and I clearly didn't live there. I was renting this place for a couple of weeks. And so I had checked the tracking and I was like, man, it said it's delivered. I was like, whatever. The guy that owns these, like, I'll check at the main house or whatever. I'm sure it was dropped off there. Not a big deal. And then later that day, I was driving into town and I saw a guy walking down the street wearing the Durants that I ordered.
Unmistakably those.
Right.
Brand new. Yep.
They were pretty loud.
Wow.
And so he was just walking down the street and he was wearing the basketball shorts and he was in his 60s. But I knew him from when I had used to live there.
Wow.
So on top of everything else, so I just couldn't, I like pulled down the window and was like, hey man. And he's like, hey, you back in town? Like, yeah, I heard you were renting a place out here. I was like, yeah, I'm down over at Billy's cabin. And he's like, oh, that's great. I was like, did you happen to see a Nike order delivered? And he's like, yeah, actually something came by. I was going to tell the guys. He's like, hold on. And he took the stuff off and then came back out with the box. And I was like, oh, so we kind of just ignored that he was wearing
them.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a power move on his front. Be like, oh yeah, I've been waiting for you to ask me about it. Just comes back out totally different garb.
Yeah. I mean, some of it wasn't worn, obviously, because you can wear all of it. But
he didn't have the shooting sleeve on?
No, then, the Durants in the shoe box, like, had stuff on the soles.
Yeah.
And I just...
They're game worn, dude.
I really liked the guy. And he was older. And I was kind of like, well, you had to know at some point. But he must have just thought, like, wow,
what a win.
Or he was just so confused. He's like, what a great guy. He sent me a bunch of gear.
Yeah.
Nice.
That's such a hard-o move on his, like, just to not admit it and just give it to you and not say a word about it, though. I kind of respect it.
I didn't say anything about it either.
What are you going to do?
Yeah. Back. Yeah. I mean,
did you just change? No.
Kicking it for a week. Yeah, right. Yeah, a little breezy out here. Anyway, moving on.
Packages
All right, so
are
what do you
sick.
got?
Yeah.
What do you got? Yeah, packages are sick. Because I got to be honest, like, mail underrated probably doesn't feel like the right call considering the bulk of what it is. Like, there's just companies out there. There's some kid right now who's got a summer house in Wisconsin, and his dad's just looking at the numbers being like, if they ever just adjust on how many pointless mailers we're sending out, we're funding the material for these mailers that no one ever reads. If I get another offer from Spectrum, like, I cannot imagine what their overhead is on just envelopes.
Yeah.
Anyway,
but you know what the way to do it, if I was like spamming people and trying to get them to, I mean, just keep it vague. Like a vague envelope, you're like, Is this a bill?
Yeah, if there's,
like,
if there's
am
too
I in
much
trouble? Am I
if
being
there's too much
served?
shiny shit on the envelope, you're like, all right, this is definitely, I cursed again. I'm sorry. If there's too much shiny stuff on the envelope, you know that it's fake. But
Well, look, we told you we were going to bring it today with this YouTube video, so let's keep
go.
it rolling.
Yeah, so we're gonna do over under properly as always. I feel like I always go first. Does somebody else want to go first? I think we're gonna do 2 each.
I was scrambling today, totally forgot about this, looked at the text, but I got one that just came right off the dome, and I like this one. Bouncy balls, underrated. If I'm in a store I don't want to be in, my wife's constantly dragging me to these stores that I really like. I'm just taking one for the team. And if I see, like, even, it doesn't have to be like the one that bounces super high. I'm in an endless quest to find like the highest bouncing bouncy ball. But even like an inflatable, like, just like a kind of a squishy one that bounces, I'll play with it. And sometimes I'll buy it. I got one in my, yeah, smaller than a kickball, but like, something maybe you'd give like a toddler or something. Like it's squishy. It's probably about this big. Like even one of those I'll mess with. Kickball seems like a little egregious to be bouncing around a store. But it really got me through some doldrums walking through a store like Target or something. So I just
Dude,
just want to put that out there. It
don't
piques
Target.
my interest, and I'll walk around with it. And if I walk around with enough, I feel like I have to buy it. So bouncy balls, underrated, great use of time.
Taxis
become underrated.
How so?
First of all, Uber's lifts. It's really a great invention. Nobody pays attention to where they are anymore. It used to be a taxi, like a guy knew exactly where you're going. You could just, like, sometimes I'll go to a city for work, and especially leaving the airport, the Uber line is crazy. You don't even know what it is. You don't know when you should be calling the Uber. If it's one of those, like, all right, walk up 3 floors and then go across the mezzanine or whatever. So you kind of have to wait. Then you might be, 20 minutes, and you get the taxis, and that guy knows exactly where you're going. He's not putting anything in his phone. I'm like, going to the Hyatt downtown, and they're like, great. And the guy in Austin, absolutely, like, swerving in and out of those, those on-ramps. Like, he cut like 20 minutes off a 40-minute trip. I think there's sometimes where taxis can pleasantly surprise you. And I think a lot of times Uber drivers, they may never have even been in that area before, especially in LA. It's so big. They have no idea where they're going. They're taking like left turns off of stop signs where you shouldn't go. I think taxis just have a little bit more lay of the land, and that can come in handy.
I do feel like taxi guys, though, and this is smart, I'm not saying it isn't, but they kind of know that the price is a little bit vague. Like, whereas Uber, like, it says on the thing, like, what it's going to cost, and, typically the map. Whereas I think the taxi guys, like, immediately add $20 to whatever, because they just know that you don't know, you're desperate or you're lost. So they're just like, here's $20 added to whatever the normal price of this would be. And, like, I'm not going to ask any questions because I'm in a city I don't know anything about. And we both know the deal. I'm trying to get here fast and I don't want to wait in the Uber line. So I don't know if I'd say underrated, but they are more efficient. So I guess properly rated.
I just think I use them less. And when I get in them, I'm like, wow, I was not expecting to get here this fast or whatever. So I think they become underrated, but they certainly weren't always underrated. That's for sure.
Yeah, I think they're underrated now, especially the airport part of it. Like, I've become almost auto taxi because a lot of the airports, although LAX, the entire thing.
You are anti-big tech, though. We know that.
I don't know. Is that true? You're right, though. If you get in an Uber and the guy's like, I don't know where that is, you're kind of like, why are you doing this? Like, I understand that you have the phone that's going to supposedly take us there together, but you don't really know what's going on. You have like no navigational awareness. Like,
50-50, they're going to drop me off on the wrong side of the street, and they're just like, it says it's here, and it's like, all right, I don't know. I guess I'll jaywalk. I can jaywalk with the best of them. Wasn't planning on doing it in the rain, but I guess because you drove on this side,
Sometimes if I go to a Lakers game, I'll go, you know what, I'm just going to get an Uber instead. And then if you're coming from where I am on the lead up to a game and just the normal LA traffic going north from where it's a commitment. It's like, okay, I'm going to do this, and I'm better off just driving anyway. But sometimes if there's a lot of games, I'll go, you know what, I'll just take an Uber. I'll watch the games in the back. I'll be all caught up, so I don't have to like get all caught up when I come back later or whatever. And then there'll be Uber drivers that just cannot comprehend deviating from the map.
Yeah.
Even though there's 4 different ways to go. And so I remember one time we went all back roads, and the person was like, hey, we're going to avoid all that traffic. And you were just like, this is awful. It's like the only time, that ride is the only time I'm like, I'd rather sit in traffic just being on a freeway, because at least it makes sense instead of all of these back roads where just neighborhood. And you're just like, what?
Just 50 stop signs.
Right. and it's like an hour and a half, and you just go, yeah, that was great. Taxis, though, I would say leaving the airport, it's my preference now. And as far as the pricing thing, when you're leaving an airport, almost every city has it pretty legislated, where here's the price chart, and then you can just ask ahead of time, like, hey, how much is this going to cost? I mean, in a lot of places would have the meter on. So look, the convenience of Uber and Lyft, it's tough to beat that if you live in a populated area, knowing that I only need to give myself 5 minutes and I'll probably be able to get a car if you're going out or whatever. But leaving an airport, there's just so many times where I see people in this chaotic mess waiting for their driver, and then there's 10 taxis being ignored. So
yeah,
I still am kind of internally laughing about the bouncy ball. That was a good one, Kyle. Thanks.
I mean, I haven't picked up a ball that bounced that I didn't want to bounce. So I guess you are
keep
right.
Your eyes open. Next time you're in a store and you're like, we're going to be here for like 15 minutes at least, just, take a stroll past that section.
Yeah.
See if anything jumps out at you.
Any sort of like fidget toy, I'm like, I'm in. Like, I'm just gonna be. I'll play with rubber bands on the desk that I got right next to me here all day.
Hell yeah.
Like, it's just how I think it's just what dudes do.
Rubber bands underrated.
Totally.
I would agree.
I was thinking about
rubber
when
band
I did the
balls.
bouncy ball. Yeah.
Let's go. Haven't put one of those together in a while.
You guys have made. I just thought of like it's like solving a Rubik's cube. I'm like, well, that's for like smarter guys or more committed guys than me. I've never done a rubber band ball.
I would push back on that being a smart guy thing. I think
No, it just seemed like something I wouldn't. It just seemed like something I wouldn't.
That guy's
see.
a genius. Did you see his rubber?
Well, his commitment is up there. It just seemed like something I would never like be doing, and I was just like, "That's cool. You have one. If I could just touch it for I'll let me just play with it for a little bit."
Now that I guess I don't know that I've ever actually put one together. Now that you think about it, I've
definitely a lot of rubber bands when you think about it, right?
Is, yeah.
Especially getting it started.
You just put them in a ball and then just start going, right? You just kind of crinkle them up, and then
I wouldn't be the one to answer that.
Yeah, obviously. If anybody's smart, can hit us up.
Yeah, let us know how you started.
Right. Try to be
Any
honest
high
with you guys.
IQ listeners, let us know.
Done sharing today.
I think this is a good one. I think I know where Russillo is going to go on this, but going commando.
Like just out in the wild?
I think I originally thought about this in terms of sleeping. Like I know dudes love sleeping with no shirt, no, like just naked in general. And I'm not quite like Tobias Funke, never nude, but I'm kind of close. Like I'd like to be clothed. And I know Russillo's been known to answer a door with a shirt off. I would never do that. I don't have the physique either. But even if I did, I don't know that I would. Like I wear a shirt, pants, sometimes shorts. I am always
you're in a vest right now
in bed. I mean, well, it's cold. It's spring. It's like cold in the morning, and then not really. But yeah, I'm a layer guy. I like layers. Shout out to fall. So I guess
you got John Elliott layers going on right now.
Thank you. Well, this is not quite. It's just my basic New England Patagonia. But I guess I thought about in terms of sleeping. I have never slept nude, and I think it's incredibly uncomfortable. And I don't know how you guys feel about that.
Yeah, I have my own sort of shirt and underwear that I'll wear to bed. Like I wear like the performance stuff during the day, and at night like jockey cotton underwear and like a real like a shirt that that's super soft, like the jersiest of jersey shirts to bed. I got a whole different thing. But yeah, I'm not really nude in bed either. You're
always shirt and some sort of bottom guy.
Yeah. And it's pretty specific. Like if I ran out of my cotton ones and I didn't do laundry, like it's gonna be weird for me. I don't like using the performance stuff to go to sleep.
Because I have a buddy who's like sleeping in shirts is weird and uncomfortable. And I'm like, I think it's uncomfortable.
I get those guys. I get it. I don't think I couldn't argue with those guys, but yeah, it's just not me.
Women love sleeping in men's shirts.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Doing double laundry.
That is.
Yeah, the XL.
Yeah. Yeah, XL. Long sleeve tee, older material, perhaps.
Mm-hmm.
There's just something about
the Gildan number.
Underrated. I don't know when it happened.
I think it's overrated. I think it's incredibly overrated.
Yeah, I think it's really a preference thing. So I don't know how you could say it's over or under. So I feel like properly is the answer here. Clearly, there's enough national headlines to know how I sleep. So I don't know when that happened for me.
Didn't cross my mind, but all right. Yep.
When it just became, this is where I'm going, but now I can't imagine ever going back. because it used to always be, especially like when you think about what our boxer options were in the 90s, early 2000s, and think of what they are now. This is like time travel, man.
Yeah.
You'd be getting a 3-pack from Banana Republic thinking you were killing it. Be like, all right, these are the blue checked ones. And they were just long, like short pants. It's really what they were. So
it was a Joe Boxer guy from Kmart. That was the worst.
Yeah. And you would think you were just killing it. I remember I had like this one pair of boxers that I couldn't believe that they existed. So I just milked them forever. And those were kind of the sleep ones. But then I don't know. I don't know what happened. I think it is something about, I do feel like it's an age thing. I do. But then you'll see people get older and then they have like an entire sleep outfit. Maybe they're doing everybody else the favor if they live in a household, and there's people around and they're like, yeah, I have, whether it's pajamas or whatever, but I don't know. Like, I can't imagine I'm ever going to get to the point where I'm like wearing a sleeping shirt and pants. Although there've been times where if I were in a hoodie and shorts or something and I was tired and maybe
you feel like it's just adding to it a little bit.
Yeah.
Adding to the tiredness.
You're kind of like, oh, this is really comfortable right now. So I guess I could kind of see it, but yeah, I'll say properly.
Yeah, I would have said overrated, but I think it's properly. The one thing I do think is that maybe if a guy, if it comes up, it does seem like it adds a little bit of mystique to him just because I'm like, wow, I could never do that. Like if you're like, that guy also eats raw eggs in the morning and he doesn't wear underwear when he goes out. I'm like, wow.
That guy's a no underwear with jeans guy. And that's right. You need to be on a list.
I don't know if it adds points, but it definitely adds mystique.
That's what I thought. Yeah, that's what I thought you were saying.
I'm open to all the conversations, but because that to me is actually insane. Like, dude,
because for the record,
underwears under pants.
My Legends 5-inch shorts, they have liners in them.
I still wear under.
Yeah, gotta be safe. Gotta be safe.
Yeah, you gotta wear
that to people.
Never know when boss is coming over again. You gotta be prepared.
Well, the part of my take filming, even I like just the way the couch worked and everything. It's like, dude, this is aggressive. It's a lot of leg.
Yeah, it was, but is that the 5-inch inseam? What do we got?
That is the 5-inch inseam.
Yeah.
Yeah, give me a 7 any day.
Okay. Is it me?
Yeah.
Shower squeegees.
Like the clean the shower kind of thing?
Yeah.
I mean, they're satisfying as hell to look at on like Instagram reels and TikTok, right? When those dudes are cleaning windows, it's like, whoa, I could watch these all day.
You think we're past peak soap cutting videos?
Yeah, definitely. It's falling off. Yeah.
It's totally falling off. Great call, Kyle.
Yeah.
Might be a deficit.
I love when somebody points it out still, though. It'll just be like a feed. It's like, is the soap thing over? Let's see.
You guys use soap or use gels?
Shower squeegee in a shower or just like anywhere?
I bought one once, and then all it did was just sit. It was just an extra thing to get dirty in the shower.
Yeah.
Right. Like shelf, depending on what kind of shower setup you have, like any of those shower attachments, like, oh, this is great. And like, clearly some people need some options to organize depending on, look, I've had some apartments where the shower was like, you thought you were getting a shelf. Dude, come on.
Right.
Like, that's not happening.
This is
so
a
then
coffin.
you get the caddy and then, you're hanging the thing up and then that thing kind of makes sense. But there's always like the two things you never use anyway that just get dirty. And then you're kind of like, whenever I'm cleaning this stuff, I'm cleaning some of these other things. So I remember buying the squeegee at one point being like, oh, this is going to work. That was maybe like a 2-use item. So I'm just saying overrated.
Shower gear.
Go ahead.
Shower gear does get me excited. I don't always buy it, but I like the idea of it. Like, walking through TJ Maxx or something, I'm like, oh, could you imagine if I was that kind of guy? If I just changed the whole rack situation? If I would use it, I think, I've decided maybe this is a little like janky, but I have one of those like green, like hard scrubbers that I just leave in the corner of the shower, and every once in a while I'll just step on it and like do a little maintenance while I'm in the shower.
Clean the corners.
It's a lot of elbow grease saved instead of like when you think about just the power of your leg. No, Ryan knows what I'm talking about. Like, it does a lot more than if you were like using your arms in the shower. So I'll do that, but then sometimes I don't do it, and I'm like, ooh, that's been in here a month just getting wet, and I throw it out. So that's probably what would happen with the shower squeegee. So I would say overrated, but the idea of it is way underrated. The idea of any sort of shower upgrade is underrated.
I don't think I thought about ever like cleaning a shower, like from when I stepped foot in college to probably close to my 30s.
Yeah.
I don't know that I ever even was
I'm
like,
not judging you.
Clean the
Yeah.
shower? Like, what do you mean clean the shower? Isn't that the point? Oh, I'm in here. And then you realize kind of how important it is because you're like, oh,
How
that's
could
some
soap
mold.
be dirty?
That's some mold in the corner. You know, that's mold. I thought that was just like grout that was gone bad. That's what mold.
I'm rinsing this thing every day.
Yeah.
So younger me wouldn't even been on my radar, but I think it's properly rated. Like, you know, if you have the glass thing and you really want to do it right and have like a nice looking bathroom, because I get that when you go into a nice clean bathroom and everything smells good and it looks good, it's like, that's like a real underrated perk of a home. I personally just wouldn't use it. So I guess, but I get the appeal. So I'll say properly rated.
Okay. Is that it?
I got one more if you guys need it, but Kyle, I think you got one?
I guess I have more of a question. Are massages overrated or under? I've never gotten a massage.
Overrated.
Really?
Yep.
Okay. I mean, I begrudgingly get massages like maybe every 2 asks that I do, and I try to space them out so it's not like taking advantage.
Poor guy.
But she just doesn't seem like it. She's just like, you know, and she's always like, you know, and I can tell that, you know, 4 or 5 minutes in, she's like, and I'm like, okay, all right, thanks. And I was like, all right, maybe I'm a guy
you're
who
talking
pays
about
for
your
it.
wife?
Yeah.
Oh,
I try not to ask too much. I try not
2
to ask too much.
massages a year?
No, I'm saying, but like, what of my asks, you know what I mean? I'm probably at like a 75% hit rate of it. And I just try not to ask too much because it just seems like it's something she's not like into doing. So I don't know. And I've had other girlfriends that were just like, yeah, I'm not just your massage wench. That's not what I do here. Anyway, I'm not saying that I'm disappointed with her. I just think like, maybe I'm a guy who pays for it. Maybe I can just get it when I want it. And I know how that sounds, but, I've never done it. I feel a little strange about it. I kind of only want a massage that would be like up here. And there's so many different forms. I don't know, like if I'm going to the right place where I'm like, hey, can we just do like head and shoulders here? I've just never done it. I don't know. So I wonder, some guys tell me like, oh dude, you have to. And then Ceruti just said overrated. So I don't know.
Well,
what would you say?
The wife
Professional
thing,
massages.
I don't ask her. She asks me sometimes. I'm not admittedly, I probably should be more open to it. I'm not. Like we have one of those Theragun things. She has a lot of knots in her back too. So I'm like, just hit it with the Theragun. Like it's going to be better than me with my hands. I don't know what I'm doing. But I will say
that's the funniest Ceruti conversation I've ever imagined.
Yeah, it's very.
His wife would be like, "Hey, you know, pregnant again. Any chance you can help out?" And he's like, "Dude, come on, they're stupid."
We've got 2 Theraguns.
But I know I'm not going to do a good job, so I'm like, why don't you just hit the Theragun?
Does she have 3 arms?
Well, I'll do the Theragun on her back if she asks for it. But like, I don't know. You're right. I'm probably being exposed right now. This is not helping the Ceruti PR
controller
campaign.
in his hand. He's just dangling out of one with his other palm up.
Yeah, I'm like on my phone. Like, is this over yet?
Like, oh God, he just scored on me. Great.
Yep. To your
down 2-0.
To your point about
for Suarez.
Nice. To your point about professional massages, I say overrated. This is again probably like a preference thing with the commando, like Ryan said. But for me personally, I've had 2 massages. Both times I was on vacation. My wife is big into them. She gets them all the time. And she was like, "Oh, come with me. We'll do a couples massage." And this was, I think, on our honeymoon in Hawaii, the first one I ever got. And I was just so uncomfortable the whole time. Not like uncomfortable, like awkward, uncomfortable. Like it physically did not feel good to me, and I didn't feel good afterwards. And after the first one, I just remember the massage therapist like complaining because I wasn't relaxed enough, and maybe I don't know how to relax my body. And she's like, "Well, you're too tense. You're too tense." She kept telling me I'm too tense. I'm like, "Well, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just laying on this table. Like I
gotta loosen up.
I'm not trying to do this, but this is how it is." And it was just like an unenjoyable hour. I was like, you know what? Maybe I missed it. Maybe I did something wrong. So I got another one on another vacation we were on, and it was the same deal. Complaining about how tense I was, how I didn't relax, and I didn't feel great. So the most recent vacation, I did the hydrotherapy thing, which I think Russillo knows a little bit about. They had like a sauna, a steam room, hot tub, and then a cold plunge. That was awesome. That's underrated. I love that. But
when I was at Pinehurst, I got to use the gym there, and they had one of those water massage tables with the light therapy, and it was I wasn't looking online to see how much they cost, but I could see it being just kind of like a fun little thing to do. I understand what you're saying, Ceruti. Like I'll have a hard time just completely releasing and just going, all right, you have to just let them work the body here. And aside, if you were a female woman, would you rather your husband be a chef, masseuse, or special forces?
Chef, probably. Special forces, like, you know, you just got to take him at his word. Where he's like, I got to go now. And you're like, well.
No, but I'm talking about like
true.
just safe. Just the safety. Like chances are the guy you're with, if anything were to happen walking down the street, you're winning 10 out of 10 times.
Oh, well, I guess that's special forces then.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not talking about like career. I'm just saying the day-to-day. The day-to-day chef thing's going to be tough to beat. The speciality of being a masseuse would be incredible. The safety
tough hours,
component.
They're always working like weird hours. And
I'm not talking about. I'm talking about like having somebody in the house. I'm not their 401k.
We're not supposed to think too much about
All
this.
Right, my point is they're not going to be in the house because they're going to be working at night, and you're going to be by yourself.
He's saying
the exercise.
All right,
this is a 9 to 5 chef. All right, fine.
Yeah, well, the other guy's going to be in the Middle East.
Yeah, I know.
Right.
All right, probably cheating on you, and slightly, you know,
or
when
is
he
the other
comes
way
back
around.
home, all right, he has the 1,000 bush lights in the garage to just decompress. So if
Listen
you
to
really want to get
Nickelback.
into like, who the guy is,
yeah, I think I'd go chef.
But I'm just okay. There you go. Some tapas.
To your massage thing, I did the closest thing I ever did was a chiropractor. And I went in there and the guy was like 5'5", you know, and I'm 6'2". Some reports say 6'3". I'm just like, this can't be right. There's no way this could be right.
The height stuff with us right now is just unhinged. But go ahead.
But I was just like, this can't be right. Like, how is he going to do this? And so he got me some sort of upcharge where he's like, you got to put these two little nodes on your back, and I'll come back in 20 minutes. And that was like $40 of the bill, like whatever. It's supposed to get me ready. And he just wasn't like, I could feel him struggling and it just wasn't working. And he was like, you feel better, right? You feel better. I'm like, no, man. He's like, yes, you do. Yes. I was like, no, dude, this didn't work. And he's like, look, see, your shoulder was like this. Now it's like this. I'm like, it looks the same. And I don't know. So that was the closest thing I've ever had to a massage. And I don't know if I'll ever have a chiropractor again before I can at least check out the physique because, you know, I think I was just too much to handle.
You know what I think is better than a massage? And I don't know what the name of it is, but it's like, I guess, somewhat similar. You know when they do like the light touch on the back thing and they just kind of like scratch and they go up and down? There's like tools for this. I don't know what it's called. But that like light tingly feeling where it's just like it's like ASMR, but for touching. I don't know how to explain it.
Okay, I think I know what you said. Okay, yeah, sure.
That is electric. I'd much rather have that than a massage.
Okay.
I would tell you the Therabody leg compression stuff where they just pump the leg sleeves full of air and it's super, super tight on your legs.
And are you like,
that thing's incredible.
Okay.
Yeah. No.
I thought those were when you break your leg and they have to like, it's a compression cast, but similar.
I don't know. You're just trying to recover.
Yeah, maybe. I wouldn't know about that.
Staying in the game. Okay. History corner.
Wait, one more. I have one more really quick.
And
bad
this one, transitions, overrated.
This one might be controversial. Bagel sandwiches.
Over.
Properly rated. I do it every now and then. If I'm out of bread and I have a bagel, it means it's probably not going to be the freshest thing. Toasted up. Yeah, it wouldn't be my go-to, but I don't have a bad time when I do it.
Over. I think because I'm looking for a bacon, egg, and cheese on a hard roll, and the bagel is the first sign that it's not going to go the way I want it to. And there's probably some other stuff in there, and I've got to make some sort of substitutions. And like, no, could you do regular cheese? I'm not really into brie or whatever you're trying to do to this. Is there a non-avocado option? Can I get one without
seeds? Does
seeds?
Poughkeepsie have a brie breakfast sandwich?
Non-avocado option.
No, I'm talking about here now. You know, I've been here, 9 years, and it's just like when the breakfast sandwich starts with a bagel, it's like, all right, one strike. Let's see. If we can get out. Let's see if we can get on base, but we already have one strike. So that's why I would say overrated. I used to like the McDonald's ones because they were kind of softer. But honestly, I just would rather not. If I'm doing a bagel sandwich, it's probably an egg sandwich, and that's just not the way I want to go.
So that's why I brought that up, because this isn't an indictment on bagels. From the Northeast, Kyle, Ryan, obviously too. A good bagel is like undefeated, never lost. If we're talking like crisp outside, warm, soft inside, cream cheese and bacon, by the way, is the best bagel situation that you can do. But a bagel sandwich, it's not my preferred bread vessel for a breakfast sandwich. I would much rather have a Kaiser roll or like a potato roll with like a sausage, egg, and cheese, or a bacon, egg, and cheese and a sauce than a bagel. The bagel variance is always kind of not great. Yeah. English muffin, I totally agree. I'd even do sourdough. And then I think like my wife is really into like bagel deli meat sandwiches, which is absolutely insane to me. There's just too much bread. it's nuts. And like if the bagel's not perfect, and even if it is, I just can't imagine putting turkey and lettuce, tomato, whatever on a bagel and eating that. And she loves it. I don't get it. So yeah, I'm with you. Like if you go to a sausage, egg, and cheese breakfast sandwich place and they are like, hey, we have a bagel option. Unless it's a bagel place, it's probably not going to be good.
I'd push back on the sandwich thing a little bit. I do turkey bacons on them all the time, but it's rarely will I go, okay, I'm making sandwiches today for lunch, or I want sandwich meat for tomorrow for the weekend because I'm just going to be home the whole time. It's not the first call, but I'm surprised. I mean, have you had like a turkey bacon, provolone, whatever, vinaigrette on like a sesame bagel and toasted?
I've had bites of my wife's. Yeah, I'd rather have it on like a roll or sourdough. If I'm having like a deli meat sandwich, I don't want it on a bagel.
Ever.
I don't really want any sandwiches on a bagel. I want cream cheese and probably that's it. Maybe butter, depending. Like I'm not like a build a full. I'll eat the bacon, egg, and cheese, but again, it's not my preferred bread vessel.
Yeah, you'll eat a bacon, egg, and cheese if that's what. Yeah, but
okay, all right. I'm not even a huge breakfast sandwich guy, so to one up Ceruti on this, I would rather just have a plate of eggs and potatoes. But I know people are on the move. Construction site, Yep. Oh, you're going to sit down, dude? No, you're not.
They don't have that Dunkin'.
Don't let John see you. Right.
Look, this guy's ordering sides. We're already outside.
What's this, a hash brown?
Did you bring a fork from home? What the
So you don't smoke? All right. Do we have to take a break or do we just keep going?
No, we'll keep rolling. History corner. Okay. Let's do it.
All right. So, I've been big on this Start of Recorded Civilization book that I've been reading. And I just think it's kind of a cool premise. That's like, let's start with the first recorded history and then move on from there. So everybody's familiar with Noah's Ark, Russell Crowe. I mean, one of the biggest actors of this era. And the myth, right, behind Noah's Ark, although maybe some people were like, it's not a myth. What I found fascinating is I would read about the origin story of all these different civilizations in the first recorded, like, documented history, whether you're looking at King's List, these tablets. Every is inaccurate, but how often all of these different civilizations started with the Great Flood theory. Mm-hmm. And for some listening, this is not news to them. But whether you go Kish, which is, a big chunk of where the story starts of like first recorded history, area now 50 miles south of Baghdad, that starts with this Great Flood. Yao, China, there's the theory that a brother and sister were left to repopulate the world after a flood wiped everybody out. In Iran, the Ahura Mazda, which is Lord Wisdom, that was the legend goes that the fittest men and women, sort of Moonraker style here, if you remember that James Bond movie, that the fittest men and women were collected, 2 of every animal and every plant, and that essentially that it would be the way to survive this upcoming flood to doom civilization, but they wanted a reset on the population. But the funny thing about that legend is that basically they were like, where was the flood in this part of the country, which didn't flood? So it was almost like they felt left out. So then that became a flood based on the snow-capped mountains, and the snow just melted to a level where it flooded everybody out and they reset. And again, we could sit here and debate over the historical accuracies of every little thing that I'm saying. In India, there was a reincarnated man that came back as a fish, and then he tells somebody else and then I've seen other versions of the same fish story where somebody with some kind of standing in that society would talk to a fish, and the fish maybe is hurt, and then the guy helps the fish, and the fish is like, hey, you know what? You did me a huge solid. Being an aquatic thing, I got a heads up on this flood that's coming, and you need to go around and tell everybody that this flood is coming. So I'm doing you a solid. Thanks for helping me out. This legend in India wasn't necessarily the same as the one that I'm talking about now. Then the guy will tell everybody, hey, this flood is coming. In some versions, he tells everybody. In other versions, he doesn't tell anyone. In some versions, he goes to the top of the highest mountain and then survives, and then has to figure out a way to repopulate earth in the Philippines. The legend is that there was a drought and that they decided to dig up some kind of spring. And because the gods were mad that the people did not suck it up and get through the drought, they defied the gods' instructions, that then they would, after the spring was broken, flood everybody out. They would have to start all over. The Native American list of floods origins is endless. You want to go back to Gilgamesh and the tablets here. There's a flood one there. So the question I'm asking here is like, all right, whatever. A lot of people maybe already know this. But what I thought was really interesting is that basically the first recorded history, because if we're talking about recorded history, then you have to probably add in, I don't even know if thousands of years is too short of a period here. But if you think of how long this legend would travel just through gossip, through people talking to each other, because, you know, in the Sapiens book, which I always reference because of how much I like some of the kind of long lasting lessons from that, is that one of the things that really, I mean, other than the way our brains work, which is kind of the obvious answer, but one of the things that set the human race aside from so many other, you know, obviously animals, is that we had the ability to gossip. And so that once people could communicate, that developed us in a way that was just going to be different from everything else, right? The first upright man telling another man, like, that area is good, that area is bad, that place has water, that place doesn't. And that was like the first form of communication and prioritizing those things. But none of that would be recorded. So when you look at these civilizations and the first like uncovering in these archaeological digs and people deciphering, and again, this has been going on for a really long time, of what these tablets meant, it would always seem to start with this flood origin. So it's not, is it true? It's, what I thought was interesting is that basically this one story found a way to travel through any, at the time, civilized area. And then each part of the world decided to rewrite it based on their own legend. So it's basically the first story. It's the first story, and then everybody was just kind of on board. And clearly there's very similar themes with different variations depending on like what the culture of those people were. It's kind of the first gossip. Did I just blow your minds? What's going on?
No, I've actually thought,
I
mean, I love this stuff. And I grew up, Roman Catholic. We went to church every Sunday. And so I know the stories of Noah's Ark and the flood, and I'm not really religious anymore, much to probably the chagrin of my parents, but I do find all of it like really fascinating. And I love watching YouTube videos and reading about the history of religion, because the more you read, a lot of them are just kind of the similar story, just retold in a different way. I've always kind of thought about this too, and like, how the heck in all these different corners of the world they're just drawings of dragons, a thing that's like never actually existed really that we think of, but yet all these different civilizations have dragon stories, from the Far East to the Incas and the Mayas in Mexico, like who never had any connection with each other. Like, it just kind of, that stuff blows my mind. So I don't have really anything to add other than like it is fascinating to me about like, we just don't know shit about history. I feel like wasn't there like some, we thought that I think it was in Turkey, it was like, oh, here's the oldest like building or civilization thing, and then they like carbon dated it, and it was like way older than anybody ever thought even humans were building shit back then. And it just goes to the story of like, we don't know shit. I feel like we don't know shit about human history at all.
That's why we should have more movies about this, more ancient times movies. I can't tell you how many times I'm Googling, are there good ancient times movies? It's like, yeah, you've seen them all. Cool. Or here's one that's like never been anywhere and you can buy it for $4.99 and everyone hates it. Like, I think like we have so much, you can just go any direction, right? We don't know shit. Stuff.
Well, they cost so much now that I
you're
don't know
right.
how many. Well, we get the Russell Crowe one coming up, but we're not going to like the beginning of civilization with that. Not Russell Crowe. I should have said Christopher Nolan. Look, I think the history thing, I'm obviously into it now for whatever reason. I'm just into it, but I also think like history can be a pretty intimidating place too, because you can just sit there and read a book and then go, oh, this is really interesting, and then somebody else who's like really into it and be like, oh, you believed in that one. And then because I like, and it's kind of become more of a bit where I would bring up something or, use it in a podcast, or like the last time I did Part of My Take, I think I did like 3 different quotes just as a stupid way to like get into some NBA conversation. And then somebody else would be like, oh, you haven't read about Lower India? Like, dude, and you just go, yeah, like there's a ton of books, man. And I haven't gotten to all of them. And there's a lot of stuff. So other than just sharing the thing that you're reading and referencing it kind of in the joking way that we do it in the podcast the last couple of years, I don't know. I know there's probably some listening or watching or whatever thinking like, yeah, no shit. Like religion is just kind of everybody's interpretation of it. And then over years, the variance would just, right.
Yeah.
You would just continue to kind of figure out which way best served. So like, look, a lot of the themes are the same, listening to a higher power and then defying the higher power and then being punished. I think the thing that's probably the most accurate is that floods fucked these people up, no matter where you were, and you could never explain them, right? So whether it's Greek mythology or Native American instincts on what the sun and the moon and the weather and all these different things were doing, there's even the reference of the Mayans, I think at the end of season 2 in Succession, where basically Kendall's going to be sacrificed and Logan like forces in this sacrificial story that his wife, asks him, like, what could you love so much that you'd be willing to sacrifice? So some of it's justification, some of it's keeping people in fear. But to think that all of these different corners of the world that were first documenting any of their history, that they all basically have the same story. And then again, the kind of myopic thing of like, only this could have happened to us. But it just means that whoever had the ability to travel back then, which had to be the scariest thing ever, but also
I think about that all the time.
Right. But I also think there's kind of a human instinct of man of like, he's consistently always wanted to see what else is out there. That in the travels, there had to have just been this one dude at one point that was like, did you hear about that flood? Let me tell you.
Right.
Listen, and then Fish talked to this guy, and then he went to the mountain, and then we kind of restarted, and then everybody just, people had to be incredibly, I mean, they obviously were in comparison to now, how impressionable people were too, because your lack of knowledge made you more susceptible to believing anything and these things that you could not explain. But it also makes me think of like in 1,000 years, the things that we believe in now and how people will look back and go, can you believe that they thought this? Like some things that we think are like indisputable now will seem
right. Gravity, idiots.
Right. And I'm not even talking about just like the movement of science here, but the belief system, like what is accepted. Not to go Kyrie on you, but yeah, like moving forward, there's just a lot of stuff where you're going to go, this was like a day-to-day understood and accepted thing.
Can I ask you guys a question? This is like a little bit of an aside, but remember like growing up when it was like, we didn't really know what killed the dinosaurs. And then now it's just like, oh yeah, the meteor killed the dinosaurs. Here's where it was. I feel like, was that ever announced? Like it just like gradually became a thing, right? And to the point where like, oh, it's just accepted. And I know I'm not like disputing it. I'm just saying like, I remember growing up being like, oh, well, yeah, this is the prevailing theory, but we don't know. And now it's like, oh yeah, that it's in the Yucatan Peninsula. It's like 6 miles wide. Here was how much the thing weighed. It just kind of, I don't know. I've thought about how that almost needs to be like public announcement. Like, hey, now that this is officially real, like we believe this now. There needs to be like public, like the old school town bulletin board where you just put something on there. Like, all right, everybody knows this is the deal going forward. I think we need like announcements about things when we know like these historical things. Okay, well, this is a fact. Now we're all going forward with this because it didn't feel like it ever got officially announced, and I would like it to be.
Yeah, I was always all the way in on that. I just assumed that they were right about that. I don't think it was presented to me as like, we're not sure. Huh.
I'm with you, Ceruti, because I remember in grade school when Pangea was a theory, the supercontinent. And I remember they pulled out like a world map. I'll never forget this. And, I'm talking like grade school, and it was an updated world map. All right. So it wasn't like we had a map of I'm not that old, where it was like, hey, supercontinent time. And I remember just saying like, yeah, well, doesn't it fit? Like, look at Africa.
It does totally
and
fit.
I was like, wouldn't that just fit? And the teacher's like, that's true. Some people think it would fit. We're like, You know, like this simple mind of a child of being like, dude, that all fits. Like, where's the debate? And I'm telling you, back then it was, and some people think, you know, it was this. Although there's probably somebody listening to this right now and be like, you guys believe in Pangea, dude?
But there's a lot of things
Miles
like that.
Davis, by the way. Yeah.
There's a lot of things like that where it's like I just want to be it to be announced that something is officially like the prevailing. This is what we're saying now about this, and I just don't feel like I ever got that.
All right, a couple emails.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right.
What a video. This is.
Yes, yeah, it
eclectic.
is a video. All right. Can you please read an email? Done. 510-195.
That's funny that he already knew that people would be begging to read an email 40 minutes in.
He has a larger concern here. Malachi Branham. I have no idea who that is. I Googled worst player in the NBA, and that's who came up.
That's funny.
Yeah, I don't know. To be clear, he's probably way better at basketball than me. Yeah, you probably can go ahead with that one. The subject says it all. I love life advice because the problems other people have usually relate to my own in some way. Or maybe they're so crazy they're just funny. And while I enjoy the occasional story time, lately it's become too much story time and not enough emails. Can we please read some emails?
Hey, I think maybe he's onto something.
I think we do.
He's not wrong. He's not wrong, but I gotta be honest, like it's kind of the bit.
Yeah.
No?
Yeah, most of the time the life advice is not like actually usable. So it's like, I don't know. I feel like we do, 10 minutes of bullshit. I try not to swear. BSing.
Come on, dude. I've got like a 2-stroke lead on the swear drawer. I just need you to catch up a little bit.
My bad.
Ryan
count.
had like a big 7th inning right there, and he's up there. This is the first one for you, Ceruti.
I think I swore earlier, actually, but anyway.
I think you might have.
Yeah, so that's 1.5 for me.
I got like 3.
What was I even? I think we do like 10 minutes of whatever on average of kicking it around, and then we do like 15 minutes of emails. Maybe sometimes it skews the other way. I think we do both. Maybe I'm wrong. Clearly, I know this guy thinks we're wrong.
No, but I think recently we've been probably, but I think it's an ebb and flow thing.
I also think it's because we don't talk, like we only do it two times a week now, so it's like we have more to get off our chest.
I've noticed some other shows doing clips about this exact thing, and maybe we just have to get back to basics. We don't want to lose market share.
I think we're fine.
All right.
I do. But I could also understand like being in the car if it's a good one and you're kind of curious like how it's going to go or where the rest of the story's going, and then we just take the exit ramp.
Start talking about
bagel sandwiches for 10 minutes. Yeah, and
this isn't going to be a YouTube, but this isn't a podcast episode, right?
No,
just YouTube.
Yeah.
Got real nervous for 1 second. Yeah. Like, what a mistake.
Like, Ceruti, call me when we're done with this. Dude looks like a lady. That is the title. What's up, Kyle, Ceruti, Ryan, Oregon? Long time listener. Last time listener would be a way to send off. First time writer here. 5'9", 180 gym stats, bench 235, squat 315, deadlift 325 is what I hit at my peak a couple years ago. I'm a little below those numbers right now. It's all right. You get something to build towards. Pickup comp is Tony Snell because most of the time I'm just out there getting some cardio. Poor Tony Snell.
Yeah.
That meme. I actually liked him in the draft too. Just want to say at the gym right now, getting a little upper body workout in while listening to my Spotify day list, which today happens to be called Old School Rock Classic Thursday Night. Mm-hmm. Is day list a thing, or did he just mean to say playlist?
No, it's a thing. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
I think it's one of those like AI DJs things. Yeah, it's cool.
Locked in. Old School Rock Classic Thursday Night. That's a very specific, but I think I know exactly what it is. I'm in the middle of a set of dips when Dude Looks Like a Lady comes up in my AirPods. My immediate thought is, I don't want to listen to this. And I'm about to skip, but I remember the conversation a couple of weeks ago, decided to finish the song. It's still playing as I transition into some isolateral rows while watching the end of Lakers Knicks on the gym TV. While I initially cringed when the song came on, my final thoughts it's not too bad of a song for the gym.
Okay.
Listen because of how upbeat the song is. Maybe I was distracted by the game. Tuesday's Gone by Skinner is playing now as I wrap up this email. Odd playlist. Anyway, love the show. Really hope I can make it to Frolic Room next time I'm in LA. Tuesday's Gone is maybe a nice way to cool down.
Song.
Yeah, I wouldn't want it mid-workout, though, at all.
Yeah, it's probably more stretching. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think that's a really nice cool down. By the way, this guy's working out late because if he's on the West Coast, that game finished late. So, right?
Yeah.
Maybe he's on the East Coast. Like, whoa, dude, you're really good.
Coast.
Can you listen to Dude Looks Like a Lady that late at night?
This is kind of what I said. I love that. I wasn't like, yeah, dude, it's part, never leave home without it. But also I was just like, yeah, it's fine. And I think I kind of enjoyed it. So kind of right on the money for me.
Okay. Kornheiser gym stats. I've been including my gym stats in the emails I send to the Tony Kornheiser show. Tony has read them on the show twice. There's something so funny to me about hearing an old curmudgeon like Kornheiser read out bench press stats. That makes me smile. I love Tony Kornheiser's radio show. Like before I got into the business, you want to talk about a show that just kind of figures out the day. Like I don't think there's a rundown for that show.
They wander. Yeah, they wander.
Right. A slightly different approach than your boy in the early ESPN radio days of being like, this is what I want to do. Right. I mean, the freedom, and that's just being a pro, but that show I just loved that show. I loved that radio show. So that makes me laugh.
I mean, Kornheiser is one of, I think, the funniest people there is in the history of sports media. You probably know this, the audience maybe doesn't, but
he doesn't like that many people, by the way. So I don't know that
I like that about him.
Excited. Yeah. I don't know. I mean,
do you like that many people?
That's a great question.
I think there's a baseline level of me being like, hey, I don't know that. I think Tony, more people start at a deficit than you realize.
You got to prove him wrong.
Yeah.
I know what you're saying, Ceruti. I know you're saying we're the same. I don't think we're the same. Yeah.
I don't. There's some similar. There's some overlapping on the Venn diagram. The old producer Ray Netchie, one of his like jobs, like randomly, when I think when he was producing SVP and Russillo, was to listen to Kornheiser's show every day and make sure like there was nothing like catastrophic that happened on it. That was like a legitimate part of his job.
What happened way back before I was even at ESPN is they had done, I guess they called it the head draft, and they decided to try to do a fantasy with all the Sports Center anchors. And it was like, who's the best? But then how many days is this guy going to miss? This guy's always on vacation. And it's an unbelievable bit. And apparently it just killed. But then in the way, they should have just let him do it. They should have just let them do it. And it's funny. And it's just really good. But then, of course, somebody upstairs didn't like it or didn't like the idea that they were judging the talent. I'm sure there's more to the story than I understand. But that that was you want to talk about the flood myths? Like a specific point in time. Whatever happened in the internal meetings after that whole show and that whole bit, it would just, the way people talked about it was like the legend of that bit. And they'd be like, hey, how come we can't do that? They'd be like, well, the Kornheiser show did this thing. Or like, oh, that's too similar to when Kornheiser did this. It must have just, it's a real time. Like it'd be like some kind of tree during an earthquake and going back and reading the rings. That messed up some people.
Jesus.
Yeah. Was his Hannah Storm thing on his show, or was that on PTI?
Remember that? I don't remember that.
It had to be on the show, on the radio show. You don't remember that?
I don't.
Oh yeah, that was like a big thing.
Well, now we have to figure it out.
He said he had commented on like what she was wearing on SportsCenter. It was,
Oh. Yeah, that's probably not a great move.
No, yeah. I think it was because of that Ray had to start listening, but I could be wrong.
Well, the thing that I'm talking about was before I'd even showed up. So I started in 2006, going back. This was...
Oh, my God. Google just gave me the Cliff's notes of that.
he talked about what she was wearing. So...
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm not going to read all the quotes or whatever, but he gets suspended for that one.
Yep.
Which is not super surprising. Yeah, maybe that was why he had to go back and listen. What an awesome job. What an awesome job that must be. Hey, this guy said something, he got suspended, so now you have to listen to every minute of the show and then let us know if anything is said. Okay. All right. Last one here. Are we supposed to be getting a FaceTime right now?
What? No. Surprise guest?
No, it's actually somebody's FaceTiming us right now that we could have jumped in and been like, hey, join the show. Now I hit decline, so that person's going to be like, Russillo thinks he's not a dick.
This is like Dumb and Dumber. Pick him up.
Okay. All right. Last one. Ryan, why don't you listen to yourself? Thank you in advance for reading this. Oh, it was originally a life advice thing. And he said corporate speak here. All right. 6 foot, 175. Convict calisthenics advocate, an actual book. BIL is police, and the running wager he and his partner have is whether the suspect they tussle to arrest has priors and has extensive prison time in their history. Based on difficulty of the arrest, he claims it's a different type of strength that is tangible. I like the results of the regimen. I digress. Player type JJ Redick could fill it up from deep, and a 2 to 3 dribble pull-up jumper back in high school glory days. Had some D2, D3 opportunities, declined them, and dominated intramural hoops, all caps on dominated. Also met my wife. We have 4 wonderful girls now, despite my older brother telling me it takes a man to make a man. Further digression, sorry. There's a lot of preamble to this email.
That was funny, at least.
Ryan was talking in a recent pod about how he never listens to his own pod, but recently he did listen back and quipped that his takeaway was that he's awesome at his job. Funny. Short story longer. Why don't you listen back? Or is that just for the pod? I would imagine that listening back would be like an athlete watching tape of a previous game and taking notes. Maybe I'm an egomaniac because I think I'd listen back regularly. I was hammered one night and called in the Ringer Universe podcast and played on the pod the next day. Should start at the 34-minute mark. We did not click on that link. I sent that shit to everyone I know. My out-of-state family who are fans of the divisional opponents will randomly ask me to send them the clip so they can drink my tears. When they do, I'll listen back and laugh, and it puts a smile on my face. Is it normal to not listen to your pods because of the sheer volume? Are there maybe some select pods you go back to because of the guest and content? I always find it unbelievable, for instance, when an actor claims they don't watch their own movies. Come on, to be in your business, that's obvious ego. It's required. It's cool. Do you really not listen back? Yeah. No, I don't. I hadn't listened to a Bill one. You know, Bill and I are on the Sundays, I think 3 in now. So I did listen random. I didn't plan on it, but there was something I wanted to listen to just because I wanted to, like, there's a couple things that I'll catch myself doing. You know, sometimes there's some habit stuff, or I'll get done with a show. I usually think I'm pretty on top of after doing 2 hours of like, I like this. I didn't like this. You know, I've sent him a note maybe once or twice a year being like, hey, I want to be better in this spot or whatever, which I think is kind of important. But yeah, at this point in doing it this long, I don't need to. In the beginning, I think I needed to because you're just going to catch stuff. But I know what you're saying. And I think you're looking at it from somebody that doesn't do the job. Like you get a kick out of your Ringerverse thing because it's not your normal day to day. You can't believe an actor and actress wouldn't want to watch their movie. I actually could understand that. The number of days they spend on set shooting it, they've read the script, they've done all these different things. Like, yeah, you could argue it'd be nice to see the completed project. They might be so sick of the material that they can't fathom doing it. And some people
can't see the magic like everyone else can, right? When it's just like, that's what Adrian Brody's doing.
I'm not sure.
See it that way.
I'm sure that's like all over the place for actors and actresses. Like I would think that if I were an actor, I would want to see the finished product, but I could also understand being so sick of it that you just be like, all right, I'm on to the next thing because that's their job and they're professional. So that one I think is a little bit different. There'd be the ego part of like, oh, cool. I'm on some recorded thing that I can listen to in the car or at the gym. I mean, dude, that's not ego. That's like insane asylum stuff. Like at a certain point, I just did the pod. I already know what I said. Like, why the fuck would I want to listen to it again? So the only time I've ever listened to anything is the rare instance, a couple times a year, maybe, where is there an interview that I didn't like? What did I usually know what I did wrong or why I didn't like it, so I don't have to listen to it all over again. Some of the habit stuff with Bill where, in that spot, remember, it's an entirely different role for me. With Van Pelt, there were times I struggled in the beginning with him because I was used to driving the shows. I'm doing a 7-hour college football show. I'm driving us in and out. I'm reading every commercial. I'm teeing up every guest. All the fill-ins at that point, I was usually filling in and then driving the show, which means, you're the guy that's in charge of all those different things. In the beginning with Scott, I got really bored. Not because the show wasn't good or I was bored of Scott, but I was so used to doing all these formatic things. And now all of a sudden I'm not doing any of those. And the priority was him talking more, that I was kind of struggling there a little bit where I never did this, but I would like space out a little bit on that show, which is like unheard of. Look, the job is you're talking, like pay attention to what the hell is going on there. So
That's a good point.
I think what you're talking, like I remember I was in the car once with a buddy, we were driving somewhere and then an ad came on and it was me reading the ad. So like it's me reading the ad in the car and he just looked at me. He goes, that is so fucking weird. He's like, does that like make you feel awesome? Or like, and I was like, are you serious? I'm like, no, like it's a 30-second read for LinkedIn, like what, so you look at it totally differently because it's not the only way I would ever listen to myself. Like, it's funny because when I read the email, I'm like, oh, this is about getting better or fixing your mistakes or all this. You look at it as I would somehow get off on the idea that there's some recorded version of me. Like that has been gone for a really long time. So, there you go. I don't know that there's anything else to add to that.
Definitely a you question, not a me question.
Yeah, I listen back sometimes to the pod. Actually, I try to listen back to certain but it'd be like if we did something new or different. It's like, did this work? Does the structure work? How does the production work?
If I did something I don't like, I know as soon as I'm done. I don't have to go back and listen to the pod and go, I wonder if that wasn't good. Like I'll tell Ceruti he'll get a call from me within 5 minutes on the shows where I go, that sucked.
We'll do a mid take sometimes. This blows. Let's restart.
Yeah, right. Like this isn't good. So not to say that everything that gets the publish button pressed on it, but I understand what the emailer's saying here, but there's not.
It wears off.
It's just.
I remember when
not,
the first time
no
you
value.
and Scott.
Yeah, there's no value to the time for me.
Quickly, I just remember you like this. The first time you and Scott had me like do anything on mic, it was like probably asking you NBA questions. I'm like, I'm gonna post this on Facebook. Like I'm the coolest dude in the fucking world. Like I swear, God damn it.
Dude, Ryan just did 3. I think I'm felt
like
close.
That was warranted, but all right. Because it's like I want my friends to see that I was in my early 20s. Like I want my career was kind of like I was excited to like show people what I was doing.
You should have felt that way. I agree. That's cool. I agree. How old were you?
It's like 25, exactly.
And you're right. And you're asking Van Pelt questions on ESPN radio.
Totally,
like that's a huge deal.
Totally. Yeah. My mom's like, sharing the link with all of her like mom friends being like, my son is so cool. Oh my God. Like it's cool. Yeah. Whatever.
Everyone understands that.
And I'm not too cool for school now, but that definitely has worn off, I'm not even like, I'm a quote on air person necessarily, but like, I think it just, you get in anything walks of life, you get a little jaded on stuff. And it's like stuff isn't as cool if you've done it like a bunch of times.
I don't even know if it's jaded, but like imagine going back and watching this.
Yeah, waste of time.
That's a great way to end it. We're glad you watched it.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for checking out the Ryen Russillo.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with you guys.
Yeah. Keep watching. Send it to everybody. Send it to people's moms. Thanks to Ceruti. Thanks to Kyle. Thanks to Wargon. Thanks to Jonathan Frias. We are Tuesday, Thursday now with more YouTube stuff coming out on the YouTube page. So please check it out and, little Friday feedback in the comment section as well.